Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another Mattel Jurassic World figure to take a look at, and as you can see, we have the Roar Attack Kentrosaurus, another awesome new species entering the Mattel line. I'm loving the fact that Mattel has continuously been giving us many new species. This one, of course, they kind of had a reason to, since it did obviously appear in Camp Cretaceous. Regardless, it's still a new species entering the Jurassic line, so I couldn't be happier about that fact, and I really was excited about this one here, having a Kentrosaurus as well as a Kentrosaurus with a beautiful looking paint scheme. I've just been eagerly awaiting this one to arrive, and I can't wait to get it out of the box to take a look at it. But as far as the box art goes, you can see it's kind of like your standard as far as the Dino Escape packaging goes. I always love how they have kind of like an image of the tail where like the figure kind of continues on through the image, and I think that's really neat when they do that. They do that with the colossal figures and stuff like that at times. But here on the back, you could see again an image of the Kentrosaurus, its action features, as well as the other two Roar Attack figures in the line, one of which is the Ceratosaurus, which will be up for review here very soon on the channel, and then the other is the Allosaurus, which actually hasn't gone up on Target yet. I'm surprised that the two of these have, but the Allosaurus hasn't. Very strange. But regardless, I'm beyond excited to take a look at this, so let's pop it out of its box right now. And here is our Kentrosaurus, and I must say, I am really loving this one. This might be another of the top Mattel figures for me as far as both the sculpt and paint. Like, it looks really good, and as per usual, Mattel doesn't paint the back half of the figure, but it's another situation where the brownish paint is so abundant in the front of the dinosaur that I feel like it doesn't really look too off by it being gone by the time we reach the rear of the dinosaur. Like, it almost looks like it makes sense because it starts out with just the light brown, then it picks up the dark brown, and then ends with the light brown, so it kind of appears as though it, falls in line with the overall coloration of the figure. But I absolutely would have loved like some specific coloration for the spikes here along the back and the tail and stuff, as opposed to just giving it some brown and then transitioning to the light brown that we have there. It could have looked better, but I really feel like it does still look pretty nice for the most part. Kind of, what you come to expect from Mattel. And I also think that the overall proportions, of this one look pretty good as well. So, without further ado, let's jump straight to a closer look right now. I love that the shoulder spikes come disconnected from the figure, so they can fit the figure in the box and they don't have to like cut off the length of the shoulder spikes or anything and make the figure look awkward. Like, connecting them after you get the figure out is a really cool idea on the part of Mattel, so definitely love that aspect of this figure. And also the tail, of course, comes disconnected and you have to connect that as well. But starting up here at the head of our Kentrosaurus, you can see that head sculpt looks really nice, and the eye paint is fairly okay as far as the placement goes, but I absolutely hate the fact that there is no pupil on here as far as like a darker coloration. Like, they could have just given it a black pupil and it really would have made it look a lot better overall. Instead, they chose to kind of give us that type of eye paint where the black pupil is just non-existent. We just have the coloration of the head and it's just a light brown, so it doesn't look quite as nice. It doesn't look as off-putting as some others like the Sinoceratops, but it definitely could have been better if they would have used a black pupil. But the sculpt of the head looks really good. We have some fantastic scale detail throughout. We also have some really nice detailing in the beak. I think the beak is absolutely beautiful looking, kind of a glossy look for the beak as well. The nostrils are sculpted out right there on the tip of the snout. We start out with some really nice scale detail there up in the face area, but then transition down into more of like a skin textured type of a look. And then up on the top again, some more really nice detailing. Absolutely gorgeous looking detail, actually. I definitely want to pick up another one of these and repaint it because this figure is honestly quite phenomenal looking sculpt wise. As you move back into the neck, you see more really nice scale detail. You also see some of the dark brown pick up there in the plates of the back and then kind of stripe down. We have a yellow coloration here on the underside of the jaw and throat area leading back along the underside of the dinosaur, and it looks really good because there's quite a bit of paintwork on the figure. The detailing here of the plates as well looks really good. Like, that is some really nice looking detail for a random Jurassic World toy. Like, Mattel really does a fantastic job on pleasing both collectors and kids alike with their figures. I feel like they just continuously outdo themselves as far as just how gorgeous of a sculpt they give us when it comes to their figures. But we continue to see more really nice texturing to the skin. I like how some of the lighter brown kind of creeps in through the darker browns here, really highlights those scales, but you can see that the majority of the scales here along the back of the dinosaur are really big, very rough looking scales. We have more beautiful detailing there in the plates, but we just continue to have nothing more than a brown coloration, that nice dark brown for the plates. Same deal for the shoulder spike here. You can see some nice texturing and some nice cracks and crevices throughout, so it is very nicely detailed, but again, we just have that dark brown, which I feel like does look pretty nice. As you move down into the leg, you see some more really nice texturing to the skin. The elbow is present there on the back of the leg. You can also see some nice creasing kind of right there in the joint of the elbow. The foot sculpt looks really nice, and although we don't have any nail paint, we do have a little bit of a glossy look for the nails, so it does help them stand out. It does look like it actually has nails because it has that kind of shine that nails would have. As we move up into the stomach, you see more of that yellowish coloration, but it starts to taper off and then transitions back to the light brown. We have beautiful texturing to the skin up here in the stomach region. And then you see up here, we have more of that dark brown that kind of stripes and just shoots down throughout the side of the Kentrosaurus. It looks really nice, more fantastic detailing up here in the plates. Moving back into the thigh, you can see the muscle definition is very nicely displayed, and the texturing to the skin is fantastic. Like, there's so many cracks and crevices within the skin of the figure. It would really be nice to apply a dark wash to this one. I feel like it would really make that texturing to the skin pop quite beautifully. You can see the kneecap here in the front of the leg, and there's also a lot of speckling throughout the course of the figure like we usually have when it comes to Mattel, and I absolutely love when they do that. Moving down, you can see the ankle is very nicely sculpted out, as well as, again, a gorgeous looking foot sculpt with the very nice shine to the nails. If Mattel isn't going to give us nail paint, I do at least appreciate the fact that they give it kind of a gloss coat on the nails, so it does help to differentiate the nails from the foot and really, helps to make them pop a little bit more in a realistic way. As we come back up here, you can see how the dark brown just stops very abruptly here before we reach the tail. The texturing of the skin, though, continues to look really nice, and now you have those spikes. Just like the shoulder spike, they look great. They have some very nice detailing to them. You can see that they do have some of the dark speckles and stuff throughout the ones back here in the latter part of the tail because we transition to a light brown, so that speckling really shows up quite nicely. You can also see some very nice, very large scaling here to the back of the tail, or actually the top of the tail, I should say, and more really beautiful skin texture and stuff here to the underside of the tail. The really cool kind of large scaling runs the entire length of the upper side of the Kentrosaurus, which is really good because on this one, that awkward button that we have for the Roar Attack figures isn't very noticeable, and in fact, you almost can't really see it at all from the side. You can kind of pick it out through the plates a little bit right there. Of course, you can see it from the upper side, but the plates and everything really hide that area of the figure. And then, of course, on the opposing side, let's see actually how the eye looks. So the eye doesn't look bad at all. It's actually pretty decent as far as this one here specifically goes. But being an articulated figure, you're really not going to see too much difference over here, any more so than what you had seen on the previous side. You can see the only real difference would be the positioning of the legs. The left leg is trailing a little bit more so than the right leg. These two here in the front are actually pretty similar in positioning. They're not too far off, but again, an absolutely incredible looking sculpt for this Kentrosaurus, and it's actually probably a toss-up right now between this and the recent Pentaceratops as to which is my favorite Mattel figure that they've released over the past few months, because they're both fantastic, but I really, really love this Kentrosaurus. As far as articulation goes, we have the typical kind of articulation in the neck area that you usually get on a Stegosaur. You can see that it can completely swivel around if you would like, but on top of being able to swivel, it can go up, it can go down, left, right, really, really beautiful articulation in that area. We, of course, have articulation in the legs. Front and back legs have articulation, and they can also move forward and back as well as out away from the body. You can see that here with the rear legs as well, and then again out away from the body. We have articulation in the midsection, just like the Pentaceratops, actually. How it doesn't go both ways, it only goes one way. Very cool. And then we have articulation in the tail, can go all over the place, and of course can swivel like all of the Mattel figures usually can, so some pretty nice articulation there as well. And then as far as the Roar Attack goes, didn't do it the last time there. So basically what happens, and this is of course my first time viewing this as well, is the body kind of turns here to attack with the shoulder spikes. Oh, look at that. So the body does come back the other way. It wouldn't do that for me at first, I guess, due to the button here stopping it. So it does actually articulate both directions, but I think it can only really go that way when it's operated by the button up here in the back. Interestingly enough, that actually has a pretty wicked turn to it when you actually do that. Definitely a pretty cool action feature, and it works really quite nicely. Also pretty nice sounds. As far as a size goes, for a length on our Kentrosaurus, as I smack it around here, you were looking at right around 12 inches, maybe closing in on 12¼ inches, or about the 30½ or 31 centimeter range, somewhere in there. And then for a height to the top of the plate here on the back, you're looking at just shy of 5¼ inches, or a little over 13 centimeters, closing in on 13½ centimeters. For a size comparison, we have Mr. Papo T-Rex, as well as quite a few Mattel figures over here to help stand in and give us a good idea of the size of the Kentrosaurus. And it pretty much falls right in the same size range as all of the Roar Attack figures usually do. So that means that it does sport a pretty darn nice, pretty impressive size for what you get, and at a cheap price of roughly around the $15 range. You know, a dinosaur figure like this that is this size, this high quality, is definitely a great deal. As per usual from Mattel, they always give us some pretty good deals on their figures, and this again hopefully will help to show you that it does sport a pretty impressive size. And then why not, for a second comparison, here is the Pentaceratops with the Kentrosaurus, and you can see the two now together look gorgeous. I was just saying that one of the two of these would probably be my favorite from Mattel for the past few months, and you can definitely see why with these two figures in comparison to each other. Two fantastic releases from Mattel. And then for a final comparison, we have the Epic Roarin' T-Rex from Mattel with the Kentrosaurus, and we can clearly see that these two do not size up to each other very well as far as the way they appear in Camp Cretaceous, as we do have a battle between, I can't recall which one of the E.T. Tyrannosaurus in that show, which I'm not a big fan of their names, but again, we have a battle between one of the Rex and Pierce, the Kentrosaurus, so hopefully you could see at least what the Epic Roarin' T-Rex here looks like in comparison to the Kentrosaurus, and also shows you that you cannot recreate that scene with these two figures, as the Epic Roarin' is quite a bit larger, but maybe if you use the Extreme Chompin' T-Rex you could. So this brand new Roar Attack Kentrosaurus, Pierce the Kentrosaurus, is absolutely awesome. Another really nice figure from Mattel, and definitely one of my favorites I think that they've released, period. Like, this is a great looking figure. Of course, it would have been nicer to have a little bit more paint application on the figure, but that at this point is like a complaint that we have with every single Mattel figure, except maybe some of the Amber Collection figures. They, of course, have a bit more paint application. But I don't think that at this point we're ever going to get figures from Mattel that we're completely satisfied with paint-wise, and that's just the way it's going to have to be, I think. But what we do have is a really gorgeous-looking sculpt, super highly detailed, sporting some fantastic, very vibrant detailing throughout, and a pretty fun paint scheme. I think the paint scheme pretty nicely replicates what we see on Pierce in Camp Cretaceous, and in general also looks really nice and natural on this dinosaur, on this species, and it's all very beautifully and very naturally applied to the figure, so that is a huge plus as well. And of course we have that speckling that runs the course of the figure, something that's very common when it comes to Mattel, which I do like, because when you get figures like this where you don't have so much paint application, it's nice to have at least that little bit of extra of anything color-wise on the figure, so those speckles do always help to create a little bit more color variation, kind of, and just help to make it look a little bit more realistic, I think. The only thing that I really would have liked color-wise for Mattel to have changed would have been to add some paint to the spikes that run along the back. Like, the plates could have stayed the dark brown, but the spikes definitely needed a little bit of paint application. But again, that's just kind of to be expected. We also have a really nice amount of articulation for our Kentrosaurus, as well as a very cool action feature and some beautiful sounds, some nice herbivore-like sounds for the Kentrosaurus. So, without question, one of my favorite releases, I think, overall from Mattel, and another gorgeous figure coming from them. Is it completely flawless? No. Could it use some improvements? Absolutely, but is it still a really nice figure? For sure. Definitely another cool figure from Mattel. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where you can buy this right now on Target.com, as I do believe it is still currently in stock. So make sure you head on over to Target.com through the link in the description, buy yourself this very cool Kentrosaurus, and make sure before you do that you like, comment, and hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on every video I have here on the channel, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.